Okay, so I just started the hangout. Welcome. Nice to be with you. If you remind me later, there are some questions that some people have sent me that I would like to go through, but I will do that later on. So welcome. Please make sure you mute your mic if you're not using any headphones. Mute your mic, and you can unmute your mic when you want to speak. So as you've probably heard it said before, our true nature, meaning the self, consciousness or the absolute, is never hidden. Like the sunlight is never turned off. It's eternal in its presence, eternal in its light, eternal in its wisdom, eternal in its reality, the absolute reality.
Can't see me, right? Oh, can they hear me?
I am hearing you.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, please mute your mic if you.
Yeah, Manny, how do I do that?
I think if you move your cursor to the upper part of the screen, at least that's how it appears to me. There are certain icons at the top part of your screen, and one of them is the mic. So in a way, there is really nothing to teach, because the self is eternal and is eternally revealed. So if you have any questions, hello Ananda. So Ananda asks, how does oneself be in love with itself through partnership? So Ananda, love in partnership is it's very beautiful. It's a celebration. It's a celebration of love, an expression of love, a manifestation of love. In partnership, when you are in the openness, when you are in the listening space, when you are in your vulnerability, in your complete vulnerability, in your innocence, when you are in your purity and in your not knowingness, there is a very sweet perfume, the perfume of presence. And the perfume of presence is an invitation. It's an invitation to be innocently, to be unconditionally. So love is the natural radiance of the heart that has no issues at the mind level. It's a dropping into the heart and recognizing that the other, the so-called other, is none other but myself. At the heart level, one heart. So in relationship, it is this one heart that is being celebrated, the celebration of oneness. So there is a recognition that what is appearing in the relationship is divine.
I guess that's why it's so appealing.
Yes.
You know, it's the flowering of being alive somehow.
Yes, it's the flowering of being alive at the relationship level, at the heart level.
Mm-hmm.
It's an expansion of the heart it's an expansion, an openness of the heart.
Mm-hmm.
And the relationship has in it the recognition of the divine, and as well as a love for the divine, a love for the universality of consciousness, and not the love for a person. So the recognition of the person as consciousness releases the limitation of just loving the person to loving what is universal in them, what is eternal in them.
Mm-hmm.
And the recognition that it's one consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
That there is a sweetness in this recognition, in the recognition that I am thou, and that we are this one heart, this one consciousness, this one universal presence. What is there not to love in that? Is really loving oneself.
Mm-hmm.
It's loving oneself as being oneself. And the recognition of oneself as the one self, or the one universal consciousness. And magically, out of that recognition, everything that appears in the waking dream has that quality of love, of tenderness, of understanding, of intimacy.
You know the saying, the whole world loves a lover, they say.
Yes.
But a lover loves the world.
Yes, the whole world loves the lover, and the lover loves the whole world. True lover loves the whole world. And is an understanding and a compassion, in love, in relationships, that sometimes there are certain concerns that arise. And these concerns, when they're recognized as being an invitation to inquire, an invitation to contemplate, it's very beautiful. Because then there is a shared interest in probing into what is happening in the relationship. What is it what is being referred to in whatever is arising in the relationship? Because whenever there are issues that arise in a relationship, there is behind those issues a certain psychological situation that is contributing to this relational event.
Yes.
And so what happens in the relationship at the event level, it refers to what is a psychological setting that is leading to that. What are our belief systems? What are our subtle conditions?
Right.
What are our hidden expectations, and what are our habitual patterns? The habitual patterns that we repeat in relationships. All those unseen psychological makeup that we refer to as me, as me and as my history, what I define myself to be.
Yes.
And whenever there are in the relationship certain situations that are gritty, they refer to those positions, the habitual positions and the habitual belief structures that create hurdles for oneself and for others in the world.
In the what?
In the world, in the relationship,
Yes.
And
I get I see where you're going. It's beautiful. This is where the relationship and the inner contemplation are the same package or the same process.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Whatever appears in your life that has some form of conflict, it always refers to the setting, the psychological setting that is in place, or that sometimes arises. Sometimes it's not there, and sometimes when it arises, it gets triggered and arises, only to complicate what is uncomplicated. Because love is uncomplicated. The mind is complicated. Why did she, didn't he, when will I, when will she? But love is, there is passion in love. There is a total forgetfulness of time and space in love. And there isn't a personal objective or a personal goal when there is this recognition. But when we are coming from an initial assumption that I need something, or I should have something, or I must have something, the I that has been assumed is not the openness of consciousness. It's more a personal self that is begging, has a begging bowl, and is begging for something, and feels that I must beg for something. I must have this, whatever it is, in order to be free and happy and joyful.
So that the coming from that limited personal self space actually defeats the very thing that's longed for.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Right, yes. Because to start from an impression of limitation and to be striving for peace, love, and happiness, which has no limitation, it's starting from the wrong place. But because our love is for the freedom, for the joy, for the bliss, at some point or the other, we release, we let go of our hold of our belief structures. We become more and more willing to trade some of our opinions and beliefs and ideas about the world, body, mind.
What was the word? To
trade.
To trade?
We're willing to
Trade them in?
To trade them.
Oh, I see.
We're willing to trade them for the bliss, for the true bliss.
Oh, yes. Beautiful. What a beautiful response to my question.
Okay.
Thanks. I'll give someone else a chance.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you for your question, Ananda. So if there is any other question. So I will explore a question that's been sent to me. So the first question I was sent is there anything like a realization event? Is there anything like a realization event? So realization is a non-event. Events are in time and space. They're an unfolding, a phenomenal unfolding in time and space. That's observable, that's measurable. But the realization, awakening, or a glimpse in the truth, in the self, in our true nature, is not a mind event, is not an occurrence in time and space. I'm going to take this opportunity to distinguish how I use the terms. I use the term enlightenment differently from the term realization. I refer to enlightenment as a peek into our true nature, a peek into the self, a peek into the universality of consciousness, a peek into the truth, into the absolute. So it's a glimpse into the self. That I refer to as enlightenment. Realization is the revelation that this consciousness is that what I am and is universal. And the realization of this, the universality of consciousness, gets established as your transcendental experience. It gets established in a way that it no longer wavers, it no longer comes and goes. So I refer to realization as being established as the universal consciousness, and enlightenment as a glimpse into consciousness, into the truth, into absolute. In either case, whether we're referring to enlightenment or to realization, they're non-events. They're non-events in that the mind is absent. There is no time and no space. Given that there is no time and no space, realization is not referred to as an event. Events refer to time and space. So the question, is there anything like a realization event, is no. There is no such thing as a realization event. But there is such a thing as a realization non-event. And this non-event completely alters the mind. It removes out of the mind the belief that I am immortal body-mind. It removes from the mind ignorance. It removes the entire mechanism of misery and unhappiness. So the mind remains, meaning world body mind remains, but it is altered. It no longer knows unhappiness. It no longer experiences the sense of lack or the pursuit of experiences, objects. So in the Sanskrit, they refer to enlightenment, meaning a peek into the reality of consciousness, as a nirvikalpa samadhi, where I know myself as consciousness. I no longer know myself as a mortal body mind. I know myself as consciousness. And Sahaja Samadhi is the being established as, yes, I know myself as universal, as consciousness, and this consciousness is universal. And this knowingness no longer leaves you. And the role of the mind in this realization, non-event, is that the mind can be used as a tool of inquiry, as a tool of investigation. When the mind turns its attention rather than onto the world, but onto consciousness, what am I? What is the reality of this experience right now? Then the mind is a tool to bring you to the edge of the precipice, brings you to the edge of realization. And in a way, in satsang, there is the role of the mind is very active, in that we utilize the mind in our inquiry. We turn the mind towards inquiry of consciousness. And of course, what also happens in satsang is the silent message, which is the message of peace and happiness, that motivates the mind to continue in its inquiry. So there is another question. I understand that the knowing aspect is only available in the waking and dreaming states. Is it also available in deep sleep? Or is the switch turned off, since I don't know anything? In deep sleep, the world, body, mind are turned off, but consciousness is not turned off. And you know that consciousness is not turned off in deep sleep because you know that in deep sleep there is no world, no body, no mind. If you ask yourself, how do I know that in deep sleep there is no world, no body, no mind? If you ask yourself, how do I know that? Because you know that with certainty. You may come to realize that you know that because you are there. You as consciousness is there. You are the witness in deep sleep of the absence of world, body, mind. So knowingness, what sometimes we refer to consciousness as knowingness. This knowingness is never turned off. Consciousness knows the world, body, mind via the senses. And it knows the senses via the the mind, we know the senses via our study of the senses, and via our differentiation. We can differentiate the sense of touch from the sense of perception, from the sense of taste. There's a mind quality that knows the mind. But the mind is known via consciousness. So consciousness knows the world, body, mind, knows the senses, but it also is self-knowing. It knows itself. You know yourself because you are this consciousness. You know you are conscious, and you know that you are conscious of being conscious. Not only you know that you are conscious of the world, not only do you know that you are conscious of the body-mind, but you also know that you are conscious, that you are conscious. So consciousness is self-knowing, is self-aware. So the absence of the world, body, mind does not refer to the absence of consciousness. It only refers to the absence of the world, body, mind. And you know the world, body, mind, the absence of the world, body, mind. And this knowingness of the world, body, the absence of the world, body, mind belongs to consciousness. So if there are any questions that you would like to address. You can address your questions via the chat box or simply by speaking, unmuting your mic and sharing the question.
Hi, Magdi.
Hello, Theresa.
Teresa?
Hello, Theresa.
Hello. Is that how you say your name, Magdi?
Yes.
Thank you so much. It's my first time here. I'm very grateful.
Welcome. Nice to see you.
Thank you so much. So, as you were talking earlier about loving the truth, the absolute, I want that, and yet it feels kind of elusive, like I don't really know how to do that. And what's been going on is my heart was opening. There was a lot of purification, a ton of purification, burning, intense, and then I hit a point where things started getting incredibly difficult in like all areas of my life, even getting more sensitive, very, and then it felt like my heart, it was too much, and like my heart shut down again. And it's so painful. I have so many situations in my life that are extremely challenging, and that's the most painful, that to have feel my heart closed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, Theresa. Thank you for sharing. You know, in our conditioning, we are very protected. There are a lot of layers of protection, thick layers of protection. And we usually live in this shell, defending and closing and making sure that this, whatever it is that we imagine ourselves to be, is safe. And when we start contemplating the truth, when our interest becomes for what is real, those veils of protection start to thin out and start to open up. We start to invite some light to shine through, to come, to bring some clarity, to bring some peace, and to dissolve these habitual impressions that keep us isolated. As this happens, Theresa, like when you're in a room in the dark and you turn the light on, you know, your eyes get react because the light is coming too much. It has to sort of, your eyes have to adjust to the day. This is why in nature the daylight arises slowly, so that it's a sweet transition from night to day. Sometimes there is an opening that's too quick, and as a result we want to close our eyes.
Yeah.
Yes, because it's too much, you see. But then we open them again. We are bound to open our eyes again, because once the daylight starts to arise, it is inevitable that it is going to continue to arise. It is going to continue to light and lighter and become lighter and lighter. So this is inevitable, you see. So in a way, although it is not very comfortable to have this shutting down again and the feeling that, oh goodness, my heart is closing again, trust that it will open again, and it will open wider, and it will open with more ease and lesser contraction. That there might be more blinking, but it's gonna move in that direction, in the direction of openness, more and more and more. So you can trust the love and the beauty, trust the sweetness of the openness of the heart. And love that, and do not despair as things seem to get foggy again. They will lighten up again. Your love for truth is your guide. Your love for truth is your friend. The truth is your true nature. The truth is what you are. You are that, and that will guide you. That already has arisen in you. And that will continue to be your guide and will never leave you. Sometimes it takes a nap, and it's okay, but it will awaken again. Okay? It will awaken again.
Thank you.
You just follow your love, keep the company of the high principles of love, beauty, kindness, generosity, fearlessness, trust, innocence, freshness, and allow these qualities to guide you. They are qualities of the self, qualities of the absolute. They are qualities of the heart, and it is the heart that you are.
Thank you, Maggie. Thank you. So beautiful and so powerful, and it's just taking a little nap. Not to take it so seriously.
We've all been there.
We're not in control, are we?
Well, there is only one reality, and
Yeah.
that is, in religious terms, it's referred to as God or consciousness or the absolute. And there is only one reality, and there is no other controller or doer or creator but that. And that is conscious. That is the reality, what we refer to as our true nature. So slowly, slowly, those veils of me identification as a woman, as a person who needs to do this and do that, all that will come to rest in the revelation that I am this aware presence, this borderless aware presence, that this very moment speaks these words, and this very moment hears these words. One reality. And it's not limited to person to person. The person arises in it as an impression. The person arises in it as a dream impression. Yes? So just recognize that is before the person, before the Theresa impression. There is that hears these words right now is not male or female.
I feel this, what you say, to be so true. So very true. Thank you.
It's always about the recognition of the self. There is only one self, I, what we refer to as I. So it is a recognition of I. I recognize I. Yes, that's the recognition of oneself that is before the recognition of the person and the mind and do this and before that there is a recognition of I. So when we say I am, I perceive, we're referring to I as that. I as this borderless aware presence.
Thank you.
Nice talking to you. Okay.
Yeah.
If there are any other questions. Ananda, you're right. I can hardly believe that I have no question. It is a mystery to me. Maybe I am so satisfied after our first talk today. And that's very beautiful. Really, all questions are towards the end of questions.
Mm. Mm.
But it's important to know your question
Mm-hmm.
and to bring your question, pose your question.
Mm.
But all questions are about the ending of questions. Because our true nature, meaning consciousness, has no questions.
Mm. Mm.
It's a radiant, the light of presence. It's a radiance of the self that never leaves itself, that knows itself, that revels in itself, that celebrates itself in the world body mind, shining onto the world body mind, a sweet light, the light of beauty and wisdom and love, creativity. But until the revelation of the self, whenever there is a question, it's important for us to probe into it, to look into it. Of course, the questions directed towards consciousness. Even when we are posing questions about what is it that I perceive, what is the reality of what I'm perceiving, or what is this external world? It seems external to me. This question refers to consciousness. It refers to what am I truly? What is this world that I'm perceiving? What is its reality? So all the questions are related to consciousness. They're questions from consciousness to consciousness. And their destination is the end of questions. At some point, there is an end to questions. There are no more questions. But it should not be a premature ending of questions. It has to be a real ending of questions, like a complete ending of questions. And there is the questioning is an important tool. I don't mean just bringing questions to a teacher, but questioning within oneself, asking oneself, posing questions to oneself, challenging oneself, exploring oneself. Ultimately, all the questions, even the questions that are so-called posed to your friend, to whoever you're posing the question to, are questions to oneself.
Yes. And after all, the clarity is of oneself. The clarity that comes with the...
It's the clarity of the self.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Clarity does not belong to the mind. The mind becomes clear as the self dissolves all the remnants of ignorance. Then there is clarity in the mind. But the clarity in the mind is from consciousness. So as consciousness travels through ignorance, dissolving it. Actually, consciousness doesn't travel. I'm just using this way of speaking.
Yes, yes.
Then the mind comes to clarity.
As the ignorance is permeated and dissolved.
Yes, as ignorance is dissolved, then there is clarity in the mind, which we refer to as peace. And there is also, of course, intelligence. The intelligence at the organismic level, which is already there, the body, mind, or intelligence that serves to preserve the body, that organizes information and processes information. And of course, the intuitive knowledge, the intuitive intelligence that knows the reality of the self, knows its own reality.
There was I posted a poem I wrote, something that was that it felt good. It felt good what I posted. Somebody made a comment, said, "I love to take a deep breath, deep full breath, and say I, and a deep exhale and say am, and just do that for a while." And he said, "I feel really wonderful." Something like that. It was like a suggestion. And I thought, I think about Ramana Maharshi and the people who would come to him with these questions about, should I do japa? Should I do, mantra? And things like that. And he'd say, until you were really doing inquiry, that's something you can do. Something like that. It'll lead to actual inquiry or contemplation. And what I'm thinking is, do you see any downside to doing various what could be called practices or breathing practices? Think with the idea in mind that at least it's keeping the mind, it's keeping the whole system in a relationship to that.
Yeah. Well, the downside of any practice, japa, is the habituation that becomes habit. It becomes a routine. So if we breathe in I and then we breathe out this practice has to have a function. It's not just to just do a practice, a repetitive practice, because it can be hypnotic, has a hypnotic effect. But if it delivers the experience that yes, I am, yes, I am, then it serves its function, and you don't need to repeat it.
Right.
So, but if you're repeating it, then it's like you walking with a crutch.
Right.
You walk with a crutch until your knee gets better, but when your knee gets better, you don't continue using the crutch. So I am, so I am, this practice, meaning noticing that I am, that there is an amness, there is a presence, a beingness that is not defined by what is perceived. It's just, it's inherent knowingness. So you say I am, you say it once, and you know. Now, when you forget the I am, and then you say, oh, I'm a man, I'm a woman, what's going to happen to me tomorrow, and so on and so forth, just the simple noticing that, oh my goodness, where am I at? I'm like all over the map.
Oh, that's where you're saying I man. No, no.
So you're saying I man, but when you say I'm a man living in time and space, you don't know that. But once you know that, meaning you notice that you're doing that, you notice, I'm unhappy. I'm feeling like what's going to happen to me tomorrow, and then you notice that I'm taking myself to be a mortal body mind. At that moment, you have stepped out. At that moment, you have stepped out from that pattern because you have noticed the pattern. You've noticed the pattern. Now that you've noticed the pattern, you are out of the pattern. It's important to notice that whenever you notice that there is unhappiness, and the unhappiness is connected to my belief that I'm a mortal body mind living in time and space. As soon as you've noticed that, you are at a moment of pure presence. But then you might pick it up again and say, okay, well, now I need to hold on to that. Now you're back to me as a person needing to attach yourself or to hold on to an experience. So you are back in the begging bowl, living in the begging bowl, or putting more stuff in your backpack and carrying that heavy 50-pound backpack on your shoulders.
Right.
You say. So this goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Now, to do a japa, to do a practice, I am, or breath technique, or whatever, if it helps if it helps you in noticing when you are doing the I man, if it helps you noticing, then it's serving a function. It's helping you to notice I am taking myself to be a man and a woman. But as Ramana Maharshi said, which you quoted, that you can do inquiry directly without having to pick up a practice and then deal with the habituation, with the habituation, you can directly contemplate, what am I truly? And just that is, and again, it's not repeating. It's not repeating a certain mantra. What am I? What am I? It is an interest. It's a passion. The passion for truth. Your passion for truth is your highest practice. We want to use that term. Your highest practice.
Yes, it doesn't have the passion. The direct passion for truth doesn't have the quality of, oh, I'm going to do something, and reminding of the limited self.
Right. I mean, the passion for truth, and I'm willing to do anything. I will do anything for the revelation of the truth. I would do anything. I'm willing to die for truth. And why not have the revelation right now? Why not come to clarity right now? Really, why? Why postpone it? Right now. Right now. What am I? This very moment. What is it? What is the reality of my experience this very moment? Is it not pure awareness? Pure borderless awareness. There are no borders to this awareness. This awareness is not a male or female. There's no place where it comes and goes, or it starts, or it doesn't go to the right, doesn't go to the left. It has no measure, no density, and yet it's undeniable. the reality of borderless awareness is unreliable. The reality of consciousness is undeniable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And am I not that?
Mm-hmm.
Can you remove anything out of yourself?
I'm not sure what you mean by that question. Can you remove anything out of yourself?
Yes. Can you remove anything out of the self, out of yourself, out of the self?
Oh, and then have it be a relative, limited.
What can you remove out of the self?
Right.
Try to remove something out of the self right now.
Okay, well, you mentioned this is something that you brought up last time was wars. You said even wars, kind of don't worry about them in a sense. And I've contemplated that because that's the one thing that came to my mind is these horrific things going on. Pink elephants are dropping bombs, something like that. It's a little it's where I can imagine something. Say I don't like horror movies. I don't like bad dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Even though
don't have them. Don't have any bad dreams. Why are you having any bad dreams?
well, I know one or two people who don't even know about, don't listen, are so out of the news loop that they don't even know. They say, "Oh my gosh, they're dropping bombs on people," and I'm almost there. I tend to catch a little bit of the so-called news.
And so what if they're dropping bombs on people? If they drop a bomb on you, so what?
I know. No, that seems that I can take. I guess it's a conditioning about that there are other beings and that they're suffering and that.
Well,
how can I be cavalier about that?
If you look at suffering, Ananda,
Mm-hmm.
you will find that suffering is this sense of me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's limited self, that I'm a mortal body mind. I'm a mortal object.
Mm-hmm.
What other suffering is there?
Mm-hmm. So looking from the point of consciousness, it's not a point, but looking from consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
The apparent goings on.
Nothing is going on from the point of view. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, the apparent goings on
Mm-hmm.
are actually not personal events, but
Right.
looking as consciousness, I see that I'm imagining, some kind of imagination is going on, and that's all that's being.
There are no personal events.
Mm-hmm.
Because there is no actual person.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine, Ananda, that you are right now sleeping on planet Neptune, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And you are dreaming this conversation. You are dreaming this perception. You're dreaming what's happening right now. It could be.
Yeah.
It could be that right now
Mm-hmm.
you are actually in some other dimension, in some other cosmic dimension.
Yes.
Dreaming this dream, dreaming this conversation with Magdi.
Sure.
Right? So on this level, it seems there is something personal happening.
Right.
But there is nothing happening to you. You're actually in a different cosmic dimension, deeply in sleep. It could be, yes?
Absolutely.
So the personal impression is a mind impression that believes, that's based on the belief that this local experience localizes consciousness.
Right. Right. That's the nub of the concern.
Yes, it's the impression that this particular light bulb defines the electric grid. That this perception here on the screen defines the web, the World Wide Web. It doesn't. Any mind event, no mind event defines consciousness. Consciousness is undefinable. You could say that all mind events everywhere are consciousness as their entirety.
Yes.
But in ignorance we say, oh, well, this is my consciousness, and over there is your consciousness. Something is happening to me, not to this body mind, but to me as consciousness, and something else is happening to another consciousness.
Right.
We confuse mind and consciousness. We confuse what is perceived to define the perceiver. What is perceived does not define the perceiver. The perceiver defines what is perceived.
Now here's something. Say there's the perception that there's mind activity somewhere. You know, somebody's being interviewed. They drop bombs on our house. Look, look at the situation.
Yes.
They're being interviewed. You see that a mind is is in distress. I can see that that mind is still the one consciousness, but is there actually such a thing as suffering? Now, if mind is not exactly sentient, it's more like dreamed activity. You know what I mean? It's more like a dreamed reality. Then does that mean that the joy and sorrow in the mind level is not substantial, or?
Well, if you contemplate joy and sorrow, you will find that there is sorrow when you experience that you need something, or you're missing something, or you must have something that you don't have.
Yeah.
Or something is going to happen to you, you need something else, something not to happen to you, which is the same thing as you need something.
Yes.
So sorrow is a state of personal need.
Yes.
It is a personal need mind event. So we try in our life, in this waking dream, to live without sorrow.
Yes.
So we try to reduce our sorrow,
right,
to come to some joy and some peace and some happiness. So what we do is we try to fulfill our desire. We have personal desire, so we get very busy in our life fulfilling our desires. Our desires for health, for wealth, for relationship, for you name it. And whenever we achieve our goal, let's say we desire a raise in our job, so we work hard for that, and we are in some sort of distress or some sort of a personal state of unhappiness, but we're working on it. And then we get that raise.
Mm-hmm.
Receive a letter from the boss, you got the raise. At that moment, we experience happiness, right?
Yes.
We experience this bliss. Yes, beautiful, I love it. We experience happiness. We confuse this happiness with having achieved the raise. We say, okay, I'm happy because I've got the raise. But 2 weeks later, you're unhappy again because you want your partner to caress you in a certain way, or to kiss you when you come home, and they haven't kissed you last Tuesday when you came home. Okay, so you're irritated by that. See? So now you're in unhappiness again. And so now you seek to change your partner, or to change your relationship with your partner, or looking for a different partner or whatever, in order to solve that unhappiness.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the process goes on and on that way. What we fail to realize is that when we experience bliss or peace or happiness, it is not because we have achieved a certain goal, but it is because our personal desire has come to an end.
Right, a respite.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the desireless state is happiness. So in a way, our desires, our personal desires, are aspiring for desirelessness.
Yes.
So in your question about the peace and happiness of other minds, it is the same process. There is nothing particular about a different mind that is not particular to your mind. The circumstances might be different.
Right.
They might not be desiring a raise, that might be desiring an end for war. But it's still the same process of personal desire that is aiming towards a desireless state. But there is an oxymoron right there. How could personal desire, which is grasping for something or avoiding something, how can it take you to actual desirelessness? It can't. It can't. So as long as you are still in the personal desire state, you're saying no to desirelessness. You're saying no to peace and happiness.
And then you see an interview, you see some little boy standing outside, the house is bombed, and he says, it's almost like a scripted thing, because the mind is, it's universal in a sense, but it's particular in its playing out at that moment. And I always feel like a person could just say, the house is gone, my family's gone. Whoa. if you know what I mean?
Well, at the same time, that because we are this one cosmic entity. We're not like separate selves. It is this one self. So we do feel there is empathy for people suffering. There is empathy for the state of the world. But what I'm trying to emphasize is that the solution for the world is beyond the world. The solution for the world problems is not in the world.
Yeah.
This does not mean that in the world we don't act with empathy, with compassion, we help as best as we can, we rally for peace, so whatever speaks to you. But it's really important to be clear that the solution for the world does not lie in the world. It lies beyond it.
There's this idea that I've come upon that the best one can, once one has this much of a view, the view we're talking about, really, then playing that, playing one's part is bringing this view into the world, in a sense, bringing this freedom view.
It could be. It could be. I mean, absolutely. Once you are in love with consciousness, everything that you do has that love in it. It's expressing that. Whatever you do, it could be the way you say hello to people you work with at the office, or the way you drive in traffic. You see, you don't need to particularly be teaching or be sharing non-duality, or sharing Advaita, explaining non-duality. You don't need to. I mean, I find myself doing that. There is a passion, and somehow things line up that way here. But it's everything that you do has that quality in it.
Yeah, and my kind of question about this is, in a way, that's giving a little to the mind, like, it's okay, you know. Okay. You're not shirking your responsibility, in a sense. You're okay, but beyond that is just the spaciousness, you know.
Yeah, you know, the mind is the child. It's not the parent. So the parent knows what's what, knows that truth, love for truth, contemplation of truth, and living this contemplation, living as consciousness, is the path, and the mind follows.
Right. It's so much fun to have some of these issues that are like intractable, seemingly intractable for a lifetime, get a clarification, you know, and they go off down the stream.
Yeah.
Man, thank you very much.
Yes, okay, Ananda, beautiful. Okay, nice being with you. Okay. Okay, so are there any other questions? Okay, so well, thank you very much for your company, for your presence, and we'll see you again soon. Be well.